everyone, welcome back to a new video for Speaking Saturdays. Let's see what we have for part 1 today. What was your first mobile phone? Wow, this was probably, I don't know how many years ago, probably, a long time ago when I was a teenager. Not even a teenager, actually. I think I was 11 or 12 years old. And of course, my parents were working. So they were like, okay, well, when she comes home from school, she should be able to contact us. So I mean, landlines were starting to kind of go out of fashion, if that makes sense. So I got my mom's Motorola. I think that was my first phone. I don't remember the model. It was EB something. I don't know. It was a really cool phone though. I loved it and I was so happy when I got it. But unfortunately, and I have no idea why this happened, but the phone just lasted 1 week. I swear I didn't do anything. It just went dead. It just stopped working. The screen went off and nothing ever helped. Changing the battery, nothing ever helped. So then they were like, okay, well, I mean, it was already like 2 years old, and I guess at that time we didn't expect phones to last much longer. So anyway, then my dad went and got me a Nokia something. It was a very basic phone, just like one that you make, phone calls with. I'm not sure how long that lasted. Because again, I was like 10, 11 something years old. But it was such a boring phone. It had like no features. I love the Motorola. It was so cool. But anyway, at that time, the phone was just there to, like make calls and stuff. And that's all. Do you often use your mobile phone for texting or calls? Well, yeah, my phone is, of course, as a child, you think your phone is like an entertainment device, but now as an adult, it's more of a work device. I do enough texting and calling. I would say I probably do more texting than calling. But of course, yeah, I mean, I have to make work calls and take work calls and so on. So it's probably equal, but I mean, I do text a lot. But nowadays, even if I'm texting, even if I'm writing a text message, I kind of prefer to just use text to speech. And I mean, on the iPhone, it's really great. Text to speech is like so fluid and so smooth and so quick. It's a real and like I don't know, I'm getting older, I'm getting tired of like typing. When I was younger, when I was a teenager, I would type everything. I would type like long paragraphs on like a T9 keyboard, if you even know what that is. But now I'm like, oh my god, who's gonna type all this? I would rather just leave a voice message or do text to speech. Speech to text, actually, sorry. Will you buy a new one in the future? Actually, well, I just got this phone a month ago. I just bought it September 27, I think. So this one's gonna last me for like 5, 6 years. I hate changing phones. The whole process is so cumbersome. I just cannot tolerate it. I mean, my last phone lasted for 5.5 years. Only because, of course, I like needed a new phone long before that because it was already slowing down. But I was like, I mean, all phones look the same. They do the same thing. It's not like in the early 2000s. Phones used to be so unique, so interesting, so cool. They had all these different shapes and colors and designs and features. Nowadays, oh my god, it is so painfully boring. Every dang phone looks exactly the same. Ugh. And so I'm like, I don't know. I have no interest, honestly, in phones anymore. It's an iPhone. I'm happy with it. It's lovely. I finally have a phone that I like looking at. I finally have a phone that I love. Because the last phone that I bought, I kind of purchased it in an emergency because my previous phone just straight up died in the middle of a phone call. And I need my phone for work. So obviously I had to rush into a store and just make a decision in like 1 or 2 days because I can't go without a phone, obviously. But no, probably for the next, I don't know, 5, 6 years. Let's see how long it lasts. But I just hate changing phones. So probably not in the near future. How has your mobile phone changed your life? Oh, I think it's made my life worse. I know that sounds funny, but if you think about it, you spend so much time on the damn thing. I mean, of course, it's important for work, but oh god, it's so distracting. You have all these apps and you just keep thinking, oh, let me see this and let me check that. And if the phone wasn't a thing and if the computer wasn't a thing, I probably would have my attention span, my ability to do things would be a lot better. So it's kind of a necessary evil. I mean, you cannot go without a phone, right? So you need a phone. I mean, there's no way that you can have a decent life. I mean, like I said, I need my phone for work. So obviously, I have to have it. But yeah, I don't think it's a good thing. And I'm probably starting to sound like Ted Kaczynski. But it's what it is, you know. I would like to not be so dependent on my phone, but it's a necessary evil. Okay, let's try part two. Talk about something which is produced in your country, such as a food or a handicraft. You should say what it is, what it is used for, how is it made or produced, and explain how you feel about it. So there's this type of clothing. It's this I think it's 9 meters long, if I'm not wrong. Now, I don't really wear, nobody in my family wears these things. They're called saris, and well, they're very beautiful, you know, but there's a specific type of sari. I think it's called, I'm not sure exactly if it's called a kanjivaram or something like that, but they apparently, and I could be way off, but it's apparently a style where they weave like these really thin, really delicate gold threads. Now, don't come at me if I'm wrong, because again, I've just like watched a couple documentaries or something a long time ago. Again, we don't wear such things, so I wouldn't know. But they have like this intricate, I think it's called filigree. So they have these threads of like actual gold, by the way. Real actual gold, not like gold, you know, coloring. So they weave that into the border, and it's such a painstaking process. It's such a labor intensive process. And of course, naturally, that's also reflected in the price of these things. And they're not just clothes, honestly. People that buy these often think of them as heirlooms. Like maybe maybe a woman buys it and she'll wear it like for special occasions like weddings and, you know, fests and things like that. And then they pass it on to their daughters, and the daughters pass it on to their daughters, and so on. If you know, I mean, it's high quality clothing, so it's not like stuff you buy from Shein or something like that. It's not, you know, like plastic, you know what I'm saying? It's high quality fabric, very expensive, lots of labor, lots of hours. It takes like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 hours or something to make one of these. Again, I could be way off, don't quote me on that, but that's what I've seen. So obviously, you know, like I was saying, the it's reflected in the prices. It's not something that you can just, you know, go and buy, because there's a lot of fakes in the market. So you need to go to the right stores and know the right people and so on, apparently. I've never like bought one. So, like I said, you know, nobody in my family wears such things, so I wouldn't know. But it's one of those things that's a dying art, you know, because again, everything is nowadays you just use machines, and so there's fewer and fewer people that can do this kind of thing, and naturally, because there's fewer and fewer artisans that can make this nowadays, the prices are increasing, and it's kind of a dying art. Like you don't see, like maybe like 50 years ago it was a lot more, you know, like popular, available, more easily available. But nowadays, that's not quite the case. And people are predicting that maybe in like the next couple of decades, you simply won't find people that do this anymore. Because again, like I said, it's very labor intensive. And I mean, it's not that well paid, you know, when you think about it from the artisan's perspective. So why would they do a job like that? So kind of sad, but I also understand, you know, their perspective. Okay, let's see what part three has in store. What types of products are mainly imported into your country? Oh gosh, this reminds me of economics. Unfortunately, it was a long time. It's probably been 10 years since I graduated. I think we import a lot of capital products, especially defense. We do make some defense products, but a lot of it is imported from USA, France, Russia. We have a lot of stuff that we import in terms of weaponry and all this stuff, but also just, you know, finished capital goods, you know, laptops, mobile phones, etc. Unfortunately, I don't think we have a very strong manufacturing sector for these kinds of things, like clothing and stuff like that. Of course, it's great here locally, agriculture, anything related to that. But a lot of these you know, like let's say things that you, like I was saying, you know, laptops and cars as well. Of course, we do have a car manufacturing industry. That's kind of okay, actually. But of course, as everyone knows, China's kind of the king in terms of manufacturing. I mean, so yeah, we produce a lot of services, but in terms of manufacturing, like we import so much stuff, it's really not good for the balance of payments. But that's a different story. Why do you think that some people prefer to buy imported goods? Yeah, I think, when you hear imported, you normally think, oh, that's going to be better quality, right? Depending, of course. I mean, this is kind of funny. Uh, many decades, I think during the Second World War, before or after that, when a product had a label that said "Made in Germany," it actually was a warning that it stood for inferior quality. Of course, like not nowadays because there's been a lot of scandals, but maybe like 10, 20 years ago, people saw it as a marker of like quality, good quality. So it's funny how things change. When you see, for example, depending on where it's imported from. So when people say imported goods, they usually mean imported from economies that are considered, good. Like a lot of people will see made in China and they'll think, oh, that's not nice. But come on, they have a very, very strong manufacturing industry. So, everybody manufactures in China. You couldn't possibly say, oh, that's bad because it's literally the powerhouse of the world right now. But anyway, normally it signals better quality. Like I remember when so my dad used to get chocolates from Italy, and I know that the Ferrero Rocher that I tasted as a child was way different because back then, like 20, 15 years ago, we didn't have Ferrero Rocher being produced in this country. But of course, over the past like 10 years, things have changed like so much. But I know that the Ferrero Rocher you get in this country is way different. They're using different ingredients. It's not the same. I know the taste. I remember the taste. So in many ways, of course, it still does stand for, quality, stringent controls. I mean, that's kind of large. It's also, I mean, in some small part, also there's a lot of people that see it as a status symbol, right? That, oh, this thing was manufactured in whatever country, or stuff like that. Like imported cars, for example, really expensive, top of the line cars, they always have to be imported. So it's kind of also a status symbol in a way. What local products are famous in your country? What local products? Well, I mean, when you think of local products, like I said, in terms of, I mean, if you're thinking of like low grade plastic products and things like that, those are very popular. I think agriculture, anything to do with agriculture. I mean, you can practically grow everything here. So I guess that's not really a product though. I mean, many people will, for example, there's you have all these items made from clay. You have not just like vessels and stuff like that. Those are very, very popular, and of course they're also not really expensive. So no wonder they're so popular. So clay items, not just like utensils and stuff, but also other things like artwork made of clay. There's certain types of you have these people who live in tribal settlements and they make art. That's also very popular. It's very unique looking, and a lot of people will buy that sort of stuff. And it's also a good way to like support them. So this kind of niche stuff, that's very popular. Do you think the country should produce everything it needs or import something? Well, autarky, having a closed economy is really not possible. Even if you're in North Korea, they don't make everything. They bought Volvos. Of course, I mean, come on, autarky, it just does not, having a closed economy simply does not work. It's literally impossible. It's impossible. So of course, because again, one country's strengths can be another country's weakness. Like some countries produce a lot of potassium and some countries don't produce it at all, but they might produce something else that another country needs. For example, I think Ukraine has a lot of lithium. I think Canada has a lot of potassium. Potassium is a very important fertilizer, I think. And so, again, one country's weakness, another country's strength. And that's what trade is. Trade is such a beautiful thing. There's no way that, I mean, it's good. It's definitely a good idea to try and be self-sufficient, to, for example, manufacturing, that is something you can set up, right? I mean, you cannot control how much lithium is there underground. You cannot control how much gold or oil reserves you have. You really cannot control that. It's you have it or you don't. But you can actively work on making the best of what you have. I don't think it's safe. Of course, it's not safe to 100% rely on other countries for everything because, well, of course, they can twist your arm into making you do things as a country that you may not want to, or you may, have sanctions imposed on you if you don't do something that, the powerful countries like. So I think you need to strike a fair, very fine, very careful balance. Like I said, it's impossible to produce every single thing. It's been tried and it has failed. So that's not even an option. But of course, you do need to import things. I think more importantly, you also need to export things. You definitely don't want your balance of payments to be, lopsided, where you import a lot of stuff and you don't export anything, then you're in serious danger. So that was enough of an economics lesson. And that also ends our speaking test for today. So if you like that, please leave a comment down below, click on the like button, share with people that you know are also preparing for the exam, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.